Here's what happened. Last few days, I've learned a new word, demure. I can't escape it on TikTok. I've said it too many times to my life partner. It is catchy and it has exploded this trend of the very mindful TikTok trend or mindfulness. And it's like this new twist on that, which I think is really cool that's having a focus right now. The original video that kicked this all off is it was put out earlier this month of August by Jules, and it has over 32 million views as of this recording. And how she talks about it is she shares for the ladies, is how she puts that, shares how to be modest, how to be respectful in the workplace. And her like the tagline at the end is like very mindful, very demure. And there's a deeper message here of mindfulness and how it can prevent burnout that I want to unpack for you today. This is the Make Burnout Extinct podcast. I'm Robert David Weeks. Let's get into it. For today, I want to first define demure so we're on the same page here. It is reserved, modest, and shy. That's where the modest comes in for that original video. And now it has tied into mindfulness, being very mindful, very demure. And what I want to do for you is to connect that to burnout and then go through 3 plays to talk about how to get better at self-awareness. Because I believe the connection between mindfulness and preventing burnout is self-awareness. When we can have that self-awareness of moving towards those red flags I've talked about, the 3, which is the chronic exhaustion, negativity in our work or in our personal life or at the world. And when we are performing terribly at our work than what we're used to, when we check off all 3 of those red flags, we're hitting burnout. And when we can have the self-awareness to realize we're moving down that path and have the acknowledgement of what mistakes we're making or what are the challenges that we're not facing or the questions we're not asking ourselves, when we have that self-awareness, it makes a massive difference. And I feel like this is such a cool vibe for this trend that this is picking up steam. And I know it can be funny and it can be a joke is like how it kicked it off and how it started for this trend. But there's so much truth in this for a powerful message that I'm excited to explore here with you. So the one video I want to highlight, there's another video she shared that I want to highlight part of it because it ties back to victimhood. And she mentioned in one of her videos, as the trend has picked up steam, where she goes, when she's I'm gonna quote part of it here. It's like she stopped victimizing herself, and rather than being a victim, she took responsibility for her actions and realized the world doesn't owe you anything, which I vibe with for the message of I used to be a victim of blaming others for all of my problems, all of my challenges, and I didn't point the finger back at myself. And Gary Vee has a great one where he's like, point the thumb back rather than pointing the finger out to the world, point it back to you. And what happened was she was like, okay, once I took the responsibility, had self-awareness, we use that word self-awareness, she was able to get a full-time job, own an apartment, got brand deals with now this trend, started losing weight, started to have better skin, started to feel better, and started to feel confident. So fucking awesome. I love that. I vibe with that. And it goes back to that important message of taking responsibility for your actions and realizing we're going to make mistakes along the way. We're not perfect, but that is such an important shift to happen in your life to be able to make sure that you're moving towards making burnout extinct. So what I want to go through are 3 plays of how we can get better at that self-awareness. And the first one I want to talk about for the play that you can try is journaling. You can try it in different forms of writing to video, you're doing video on your phone, to an audio recording on your phone. But what comes up for me with journaling was when it first started, which was when I was 22 years old. And how I started was, it was Easter Sunday. And usually, during college, I'd spend time in Charleston for Easter. And what would happen, because that was my party phase, where I'd go out 6 nights a week. So I'd party the night before, and then hungover, I would go to brunch, go to church, and hang out with my friends. But what happened on this one was I woke up and I got no messages from my friends at the time. I was hungover and I wasn't getting there was no plans that were set up. So I, of course, the ego coming in for me was like, well, fuck this. No one's texting me. I'm not going to text them. You know, that whole like back and forth. Like if they don't talk to me, I'm not going to talk to them. And what that caused was for me to start blaming them for not reaching out and creating this negativity, this resentment within me. So what I ended up doing was, okay, I thought best idea, let me distract myself and entertain myself. So I went through a Tom Cruise marathon of movies, kicking it off with Top Gun. Then I think I went into like Mission Impossible, going through those movies. But what kept coming up as I was like watching these movies was there's this like message within my body trying to come out and be shared. And I wasn't listening. I wasn't having any of it. And I remember like it just this sensation bubbling up inside of me, like kind of like you feel like there's something missing, there's something that needs to be said here, but you don't know what it is, or you're trying to run away from it and ignore it. But the body is just constantly giving you those signals of like, you gotta like listen to me, dude, like listen to what I gotta say here. And that was coming up for me where it got to a point of this moment of like, you have to be seen. Like that came through. Like now that I'm thinking back to it, it was like, you have to be seen. Like there's something that needs to be said. Like you got shit to talk about. And that's where I decided, like I'd heard about journaling, hadn't really done it a whole lot. So, like I thought about it, but I hadn't done it. And so that was a moment where I had this book. I took the journal, took the journal and started writing. Just started writing it. I dated it. I put my age, for some reason I put my age on there. And I still have it to this day. And it was in that moment I was journaling this stuff out where I was starting to get like the shit out of my mind and out of the rest of my body. Talking about how shitty I felt in that moment. I was actually acknowledging that I felt hurt, which is a hard thing to do when you're constantly numbing yourself with distractions. If that's, with internet, especially having easy access to ways to distract yourself. I was able to acknowledge it in that moment of like, I felt shitty and it was a shitty thing. And having that doorway that opened up for me of a conversation with myself changed my life. I don't say that lightly. It really did. Because it allowed me to start to understand more about me and myself. And you got to think back, like I'm thinking 22 years old, this is like 2014. This is 4 years before my burnout. But it opened up the door to have a channel of getting thoughts out. And what that led was over now a decade of on and off journaling. Like, especially early on before my burnout, there'd be months that would go by where I wouldn't journal. So I'd do one entry and then maybe I'll do a few days at a time and there'll be a few months break. There may be a sign there of the importance of consistency. But I was able to feel seen. And by getting it out, I was able to reduce the stress I was feeling at times, the anxiety, the overwhelm. I was starting to create answers. I was feeling momentum. And it allowed me, especially once I hit the burnout, because that happened due to other reasons. Like journaling wasn't going to just solve it on its own. And that's something that I keep telling you is like, this is one of many plays to try out for yourself. You're going to have your own playbook with these key plays that help to make burnout extinct. So what it did though, was I was able to have a habit of doing this where after my burnout, I was able to go back to journaling. And that was such a helpful way to help me recover from my burnout and to now be able to make sure that is extinct and it doesn't come back. So you can give this play a try for journaling and try it out for yourself. Because there are those thoughts that come up that we just got to release out some way or somehow. And it may be too scary for you, too weird, too silly, whatever it is to share with a friend or someone close. And so journaling is a great way to be able to just do that for you and to get this out. So that's play number one. Let's get into play number two. Play number two is a tech break. I had a whole moment in my career of like talking about digital detoxing. I call it like the digital reset. And I had created a social media conference. That's what led to the burnout. So I understood like just the impact that tech, social media, but tech overall has. Being able to access something that can help us to not feel bored is a really powerful tool that can also have negative effects on us. And for me, what comes up is thinking back to when I was walking around the lake. I've talked about this before, of saying hi to people to build up my confidence. When I was doing that and going around that lake and talking to people, it'd be a few seconds of saying hi. Some people would just ignore me. There was so many trees that were around this lake, so many cool, trees, trails. There was like some turtles I was seeing, a ton of geese that were there. But what was happening was I was walking around that circle without my phone. I would leave my phone in the car and I would disconnect. And what happened was when I started walking, the tension in my shoulders, like, I literally felt it. Tensions in my shoulders, the shoulders started to sink and started to relax. And I was able to feel a little bit more at ease. I was like starting to move towards feeling at ease. I still had some anxiety and stress, and that was coming up, but it was less. And when I got back to the car, I actually felt different than when I had started that walk. And yes, the movement was helping because I was getting my body moving. It was helping to build up more mitochondria, so I could feel more energized. Again, mitochondria being the energy workhorse in the body. So yes, that was helping. And I also know by disconnecting from tech and taking a break from tech, that was also helping my mental state and mindset to be present and to actually look at the trees that were around me, to see the turtles that were just like hanging out in the water, vibing out, the geese that were like getting in my way, crossing the paths. All of that allowed me to get back to presence, and the stresses I was feeling, if that was work that was coming up of like, okay, I got this new project I want to put out there into the world. How can I communicate this better? Or, I have to start sending those important emails that I'm really scared to send out, to maybe personally, like, how do I talk to my parents about this issue that's coming up in my life? Or how do I start making more friends? Like, those were all put on the sidelines, and I could just take a break from it and walk around the circle. I will tell you that is such an important gift to give to yourself. And you can take a break in different ways. Like, you could put your phone out of your room before you go to bed, and that could be your moment to take a break. You could keep your phone in the house and do a walk around the block. You can read a book for a few minutes and not look at your phone or look at your computer. There are different ways to do this that I know there's probably a few that are coming up for you for ways you could do this, but making it a consistent focus is really helpful. And I try to make sure, for me, some key things, it doesn't always happen because of hotel rooms, but I try to keep my phone out of the bedroom is one. That's really helpful. I make sure that I have moments where if I'm going out for a walk outside, there are moments where I don't have my phone with me. Or if I have to bring my phone for an emergency, those moments where, just having in case of emergency, I have it on airplane mode. And I make sure I have time throughout the day where I'm taking a break. And it could be for 5 minutes. It could be for a minute, 30 seconds, making sure you build that and start small and then build it over time as a habit that is consistent for multiple times in a day is going to be really helpful for you. Because again, what this does is it helps you to become present, to reduce the stress so we're not getting into the chronic stress that then leads us into the chronic exhaustion, and we're hitting that first red flag. We're avoiding that first red flag of burnout. So that's play number 2. Play number 3, deep breathing. So for my first burnout proof workshop, I remembered I was getting ready for this event, and I didn't know what to expect because it was my first time doing it. So I had this bubbling up sensation I remember like after I was at the hotel room getting ready to go to meet up with this group that I was supporting. And I remembered in that moment of like, okay, I gotta breathe. Like I gotta get some deep breaths in and relax. Yes, it's my first time, but I've had years of public speaking experience. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I got this. I can do this. And by breathing deeply, what it was allowing for me to do in that moment was allow me to allow my shoulders to drop, allow the tension in my stomach that I was feeling, that were like all the knots that were twisting and turning, to just like chill for a bit and relax and smooth out. Allow me to be able to let myself relax the other tensions in the rest of my body. And what it does from a nervous system standpoint is, with this relaxation and deep breathing, it then allows the parasympathetic nervous system to be activated, which sends a signal to the brain to tell the anxious part that of you that you're safe and that you don't need to go through the responses that we have, the fight, flight, and freeze responses, but we're able to feel safe. And when that happens, when it's in those moments where we can reduce our levels of stress, of our anxiety, of our overwhelm, so that we are creating breaks for us. And it causes us to stop moving down towards that path of chronic exhaustion. And for me, it was in that moment where I was breathing. I was doing a breath work that was part of the EPIC method. And I can even, I'll be able to talk it out with you for how to do this. But by doing that, and it's something I've consistently done every day now, for I'm thinking about the amount of time, but it's something it's one of my 12 daily habits that I do. This is what I got from Lifebook. It's one of my 12 daily habits. My focus is to get 90% of those habits done in a month. And it is really important to be able to consistently deep breathe, because we do tend to have the shallow breathing with the anxiety that we feel throughout the day. If it's work, the tons of messages that we have to send out digitally, to the conversations we have to have in person. Like, we can feel that at work, we can feel that in our personal lives. So with the deep breathing, that's going to help. And one way that you can help with this deep breathing is you can do this type of breathing where it's, this was actually shared by a friend of mine, Zach Campa, where he's a breathwork instructor, where it's called earth breathing, where you breathe through the nose and then breathe out through the mouth. And you can do it for like a count of 3 for an inhale. So it's, I'm breathing in and then out. And you do a little bit longer of an exhale to get the air out. But then what you can do is add your hands in the movement. So you do a deep inhale by scooping the air in front of you. So you scoop in towards your chest for the inhale, and then you can push that air out on the exhale, just like as if you're pushing against a wall. And then you repeat that. Inhale, bring it to your chest, and then push out. And you can try that for 10 times. 10 times, focusing in on relaxing the tension, like letting the tension go, relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the stomach. And by the end of it, you'll notice a difference. And that is going to be helpful to do that consistently. You can do that, for the next 7 days, to start to build that habit of relaxation throughout your day. Especially if you're just like constantly feeling like your mind's pinballing all over the place, and you got like 20 different things done in the to-do list, and it's just like, oh, gotta go to this, gotta do this, gotta do this. And it's like that rabbit, the bunny rabbit, energize everybody that's moving around, but it's chaotic as hell for the energy. We want to avoid that. We want to get a lot of things moving forward for momentum in our lives. We absolutely want to be able to do that, but in a sustainable way that goes back to what I've talked about before, of starting small, putting in quality reps, but putting in the reps, and make sure you're doing that over time, and it compounds. So let's recap it for the 3 plays they can try for getting better at self-awareness. Play number 1 is journaling. Give it a try. Different forms, written to video to text. this, or not text, to audio. Play number 2, tech break. Take the damn break. Do it. Okay. Professional athletes, they take breaks. You can too. Making sure you have those moments to take a break from tech is going to be really important. And just stepping away, going out for a walk, reading a book, being able to have a moment for you without technology is going to be really helpful. Play number 3, deep breathing. This helps to activate our parasympathetic. This word is a tongue twister for me. Parasympathetic nervous system that then sends that signal to our brain to acknowledge that we're safe. And when it comes to this chaotic world out there and the craziness that can happen, that is a powerful gift that you can give to yourself. And go back to the quote by John Butcher. There's no one right way for you. There's no one right way, but there is a right way for you. And these plays are ones that you can try out to determine if this is going to be in your burnout proof playbook. And what's great is you get to change it up. You get to go back to this, try it out. If it doesn't work, okay, you can try a new play. And then if you're like, maybe I actually feel like I didn't give it a fair chance, let me come back and try this play of journaling again. You can do that. That's totally okay. It's not set in stone, or like, you can make a change. I feel that's really important. And I feel what's really powerful is, again, this narrative of taking responsibility. This is your moment to be able to do this. Just like it's very demure to do that, to take that responsibility on, to realize that you have such immense power in the decisions that you're making in your life, of how you are shaping your life, and how you can move towards what you want in life. And to realize that you don't have to just react to life, but you can respond to life. And that is a powerful and priceless gift that you can give to yourself. If you like this episode, please don't forget to rate this podcast to help get this message out of Make Burnout Extinct. And you can share what resonates with you from this episode by connecting with me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. It's very demure of you. I don't take that for granted. And I am excited to be able to reconnect again soon.